Russia and Ukraine finally started to drop a neutrality plan to end the war. President Zelensky had an online speech in front of US Congress. These are the bombings that happened in Kiev. Here is the video of the military action of unmanned aerial vehicle airstrikes in Dnipro, Ukraine. Russia does not have to follow the Convention of Human Rights. What's up, this is the Russian Dude, and this is your 18th day update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Thanks to some most recent negotiations, Russia and Ukraine finally started to drop a neutrality plan to end the war. And as of today, this plan contains 15 main points. And among the most important ones is that Russia agrees to cease the fire and leave the territory of Ukraine as long as Kiev remains neutral and starts to limit its military forces. Second, Ukraine must not join NATO, as well as not allow international military camps on its territory and not receive weapons from international countries. But just like President Zelensky mentioned previously, Ukraine is already not considering the fact to join the NATO. The only thing they are still looking from NATO at this very moment is to close its airspace above Ukraine. Third, which is the hardest for Ukraine, is to acknowledge the independence of Crimea, Lugansk and Donetsk. The fourth one is the full demilitarization of Ukraine, though it will still be allowed to keep its army. And the fifth main point is that Ukraine must acknowledge Russian language as a legitimate language on the territory of Ukraine. Here you can see destroyed and abandoned Russian military vehicles in Kherson region. Here is the video of the military action of unmanned aerial vehicle Bayraktar against a Russian tank. This is the mention of the main propagandist of Russia, Vladimir Solovyov, which was found in Italy. The Ministry of Defense of Russia says that Kherson, Ukraine is under full control by Russian army. Saudi Arabia now considers accepting yuan instead of dollars for Chinese oil sales, which can be a relatively bad thing for the reputation of US dollar as one of the major international currencies. Russian soldiers who lay down their weapons as well as anti-war protesters can get an asylum in Norway. This is the picture from France, where you can see that even more anti-Russian discrimination happening around the world. The president of the US, Joe Biden, announces $1 billion in new military aid to Ukraine. And this assistance package includes such items as anti-aircraft systems, light anti-armor weapons, unmanned aerial systems, rifles, pistols, rounds, ammunition, body armor and helmets. And if you want to continue receiving such daily updates, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends or anywhere else you want. Thanks so much, and let's continue. Tire manufacturer Michelin stopped its export to Russia. This is the graph of the gas prices in Europe, which is at this very moment is somewhere around $1,200. The USA activated emergency nuclear war communication systems. And it basically means that in case there is a nuclear intervention, the main government officials of the country will be able to communicate with each other. Russia has left the Council of Europe, which basically means that now Russia does not have to follow the Convention of Human Rights, which prohibits slavery and torture. You can only guess what it can potentially mean for future anti-war protesters. And in this picture you can see the representatives of the Council of Europe removing Russian flag. Additionally, one political party in Russia now proposes to return death sentences. China warns Western countries that it will retaliate if it's hit with anti-Russian sanctions. The price of oil keeps going down, and at this very moment it is a little bit below $100 per barrel. The White House invited major TikTok superstars and informed them that they should blame Putin for increased gas prices. And in this video you can already see just one of the first-hand political experts of TikTok doing just that. Russia and Ukraine were one of the major exporters of wheat on the international market. And now, since there is a lack of supply of this commodity, India acts to seize the gap in wheat export market. These are the bombings that happened in Kiev earlier today. Because of artillery strikes, a civilian building in Kiev, Ukraine was destroyed. Yesterday, Chinese stock market declined rapidly because Russia asked China to support them in their war with Ukraine. And today, the Communist Party of China announced that they will do everything possible to support Chinese market. As a result, share prices of some Chinese companies jumped the most since 2008. Putin had a conference today, and these are the main things that he mentioned. First of all, in the nearest future, Ukraine could have received nuclear weapons which will be used against Russia. Second is that the military operation in Ukraine goes in accordance with the plan. Third is that Russia has no plans in occupying Ukraine. Fourth is that Russia saved Lugansk and Donetsk because Ukrainian military intervention was just a matter of time. Fifth, the artillery strike against Donetsk on March 14th by the army of Ukraine is a terroristic attack. Next, he mentioned mentions biolaboratories on the territory of Ukraine, as well as that Ukraine was the meeting point for Western countries to show aggression against Russia. And the way they did it is by sending military personnel and weapons to Ukraine. Next Putin mentions is that international sanctions must be a lesson for Russian businesses, that they should always invest in the internal market. And the president also acknowledged that the discrimination of regular Russians is somewhat similar to discrimination of Jews by Nazistic Germany. And finally, he mentioned that the main goal of Western countries is to divide and weaken Russia, as well as that the main internal goal of Russia is still to eliminate the poverty, and that Russian banks will not print money in case there are economic difficulties. This chart shows the share of global payments by currency processed on SWIFT as of December 2021. And even though, as you can see, even more and more Russian banks are getting cut off from SWIFT system, the value of transactions in Russian ruble is only 0.21%. Earlier this Wednesday, March 16th, President Zelensky had an online speech in front of US Congress. And four main things he was asking is to implement no-flight zone above Ukraine, is to send Ukraine more weapons, is to implement more sanctions against Russia, and to make more businesses leave Russian market. As of today, Ukraine completely legalized cryptocurrencies. This is another video of airstrikes on Kiev, Ukraine. The convoy of military vehicles of Russian army is getting destroyed somewhere near Kiev, Ukraine. One political party in Germany offered to provide asylum to Russian soldiers who laid down their weapons. Additional air defense systems are being sent to Ukraine from the US. The International Court of Justice demands Russia to stop its military operation on Ukraine as soon as possible. Some Russian programmers are already developing the replacement for Instagram, and it is going to be called Rosgram, and this is just the way it looks. As a result of artillery strikes, one of historic schools in Kharkov was destroyed. Administrative charges are being brought upon Marina Ovsyannikova, who was protesting yesterday with anti-war posters during live news report on the main Russian channel. And as of today, her fine is just $300. But she says that she is still afraid that criminal charges can be implemented in the future. As well, she's very concerned about her own safety and safety of her children, which definitely makes sense because right now, when she's in the center of attention of basically everyone, nothing illegal will be done against her. But as soon as this story dies down, we can definitely expect something unfortunate to happen. Even more journalists who are working on propagandistic channels are now quitting their jobs. And among them is Zhana Agalakova from channel number 1 and Vadim Glusker from channel NTV. Fox News cameraman Pierre Zakrzewski was killed in Ukraine. These are the pictures from destroyed Kharkov, Ukraine. Earlier today, the prime ministers of Poland, Slovakia and Czech Republic arrived to Kiev, Ukraine. And later, President Zelensky met with them to discuss current situation with Russia and Ukraine. One of the biggest freelance platforms, Fiverr, is now also leaving Russian market. Another missile sent by allegedly Ukrainian army hit the region of Donetsk, the city of Makeyevka. This video is from Nikopol, Ukraine. It is now officially illegal to justify the actions of the Russian army in Ukraine. For doing this, you can get up to 15 years in jail. These are the consequences of airstrikes in Dnipro, Ukraine. The US Senate unanimously decided to acknowledge Vladimir Putin as war criminal. Russian stores may now have the deficit of sugar, and this is the video showing some people trying to get sugar. The ministers of foreign affairs of Russia and Turkey have met today in Moscow. The Ukrainian TV channel was hacked earlier today, and at the bottom people were able to see fake order of President Zelensky to lay down the arms. Since the beginning of the military operation in Ukraine, Russian App Store has lost 6,982 apps. These are the consequences of military actions in Kharkov, Ukraine. The theater in Mariupol, Ukraine, which served as the bomb shelter for civilians, including kids, was completely destroyed earlier today. The Russian currency ruble is gaining back its strength against US dollar. It used to be somewhere around 140 rubles per $1, and this moment it's a little bit less than 100. Thousands of Russian tourists are stuck in Cyprus and Egypt. The director of Roscosmos, Dmitry Rogozin, acknowledges that Russia will not leave behind American astronaut, because at this very moment there is one American astronaut on the International Space Station who is supposed to go back on Earth March 30th. And despite Western propaganda which said that Russians will abandon him in space, Russia says that they will bring him back to Earth. Some McDonald's restaurants in Siberia are still operational. The representatives of Independent Republic of Donetsk, previously recognized by Russia, is asking Russia to protect them from Ukrainian airstrikes. First mercenaries from Brazil arrived in Ukraine. One of the main war propagandists in the world, Bernard-Henri Lévy, was spotted in Odessa, Ukraine earlier today. He is notoriously known for his controversial means of doing propaganda during war times. Some teachers and government workers in Russia are receiving emails that they will be forced to go on protests March 18th, supporting the actions of Russia in this conflict. There will be a curfew in Kiev, Ukraine, which starts at 9 p.m. all the way until 8 a.m. The representative of Donetsk said that every single Ukrainian who received a weapon from the government will now be considered as a military target. The Russian ambassador in France said that the change of political power in Ukraine was not discussed during Russian-Ukrainian talks. It was suggested that all government authorities in St. Petersburg, Russia, must put Z and V markings on its media sources. Russia has implemented individual sanctions against 313 Canadians, including the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. More than 90 tons of humanitarian support by Russian army was distributed in Kharkiv region, Ukraine. Some people in Venezuela support Russian army. Western weapons and ammunition which was seized from Ukrainian army is now given to Lugansk and Donetsk, and soldiers there are taught how to use it. More than 270,000 refugees arrived from the region of Donbass to Russia. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, says that he always loved Ukrainian culture and language, that Moscow was never against Ukrainians as a nation, and it was the Western propaganda which set Ukrainians and Russians against each other. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of UK, Liz Truss, wants full isolation of Russia. Thank you so much for your attention, stay safe, and see you next time.